So how much do you think Buckingham Palace hates Tyson Fury, the Gypsy King? I mean, the man lives in England and the royal family over there. First of all, there's not a man on the planet that gives a rat's ass about the royal family at Buckingham Palace. That's all a women's thing, you know, the princess and the queen. You know, there's some women that idolize that with the tea set and whatnot because little girls trained to be a princess from birth. Boys aren't trained to be princes. It's not necessarily so looked up to. Now, a man might be willing to be a prince to get some of that fine princess quality companionship, you know. But it's not the honor of being a prince they're after, that's for sure. And because you guys aren't like, oh, way to go, Frederick, you prince, you. But Tyson Fury is freaking Gypsy King. And all the men in Buckingham Palace and everything trying to prop up the Queen of England over there, they gotta hate him. They gotta hate him so bad, you know. And it's what are you gonna do? I mean, first of all, I got to point out that Tyson Fury is basically he is to white guys what Barack Obama was to black people, but nobody's willing to say that. See, I grew up at a time where there was even a movie made. It was called The Great White Hope, because baby, back before my day, back before I was born, before Sonny Liston and people like that, before Muhammad Ali, when there were some white champions, there might have been some white guys that were happy to see a black heavyweight champion. But after 3 decades of seeing nothing but black heavyweight champions, it's like, we can do that too. You know, I mean, it's the same thing. It's not a matter of being racist against black people. It's a matter of feeling inferior, which that's where a lot of racism comes from. Let's face it. If people hate a race, it's because they feel inferior. So, seeing a white heavyweight champion was a good thing. But what a lot of people in America don't realize is that we did have a white heavyweight champion for about a whole decade before Tyson Fury. But he was from the Ukraine. Guess what his name was? It was Vladimir. It wasn't Scott. It wasn't Dave. It wasn't Jim. It was Vladimir. And what kind of names does that sound like to you? So when people talk about, oh, America's got to go over and defend the Ukraine from Russia, it's like, the most famous guy's name is Vladimir. Pretty sure they got a little more claim to the Ukraine than we do here in America. That's just my opinion. People might not know this, but Tyson's on his mother's side is Burton. And there were some Burton Gypsy Kings and other people. But is that real Gypsy? Are you Roma? Do you speak Roma? Well, first of all, we speak whatever language you make us speak. And the Roma, where the word Roma probably came from is probably some gypsies that were in Rome that when the people came around, it was like, what are you? What are you? They didn't know better because they just got there from Spain or Romania or wherever they came from before they were there, because that's the whole thing with being a gypsy. You get moved around a lot, you know, so speak whatever language that you're taught to speak in whatever country you're in when you learn to speak. And so they probably came around and was like, what are you? And they're like, Roma? Trying to not get persecuted. And people are like, oh, gypsies are criminals. Well, first of all, you can't legally be a gypsy because it's all a matter of you can't park here, you can't park there. And back before you had cars and whatnot, and the automobiles like you have today, when it was horses, that you could breed your own horses and live in your wagon and travel around, there's plenty of open space. But now every space on every road's been staked claim to. It's not like you can just pull up and park there because you got to have a sticker on the vehicle. So to legally be a gypsy is impossible. So you got gypsy heritage now. So the people at Buckingham Palace, they tell the Jewish people, the Hebrew people of Jewish descent, they're like, look, you got to go reason with these people, this Gypsy King and all their people, because first of all, we're trying to help you take over America, and these guys are being a problem. So Jewish people, Hebrew people of Jewish faith got a lot in common with gypsies because, A, you got the fact that they came out of Egypt, and 2, they had to move around for a lot of time, and 3, the persecution of the Holocaust. Well, they probably. So then you got, like, Whoopi Goldberg got in trouble for what she said, although I believe that was totally a trap the whole way, because I'm pretty sure she's at least honorary Jewish, first of all. So I think that was a trap. It's like, then they wanted to get the gypsies riled up, so they came out with the Jimmy Carr scandal or whatever. Well, first of all, if you're a gypsy, you're just happy to hear something in the news about a gypsy. And the fact that Jimmy Carr pointed out that there were gypsies in the Holocaust, it's like at least he mentioned it. You know, at least he bloody mentioned it. So, you got that. Well, it's like, oh, but wait a minute. This is the thing you're taught to. Like, gypsy is, first of all, it's a mistake. Gypsies didn't come from Egypt, they came from India. It's like, wrong. That's because you believe that Charles Darwin stuff, which is a racist theory, first of all. We'll get back to that right now, but wrong. Everybody came out of Egypt. Gypsies are just the people that know we came out of Egypt. Okay, so since all people came from Egypt, and anybody who likes to travel and is willing to live the life of traveling could therefore technically become a gypsy, and I agree with that. In fact, all your membership dues, you can join me right now. Is all it costs you is a tank of gasoline, brother. Welcome aboard. So that's why British people, they sent the Jewish people to try and reason with us and the gypsies and be like, look, come on guys, I think we know what it's like to be persecuted and everything, but you know, it's like, oh, what do you? Yeah, I mean, yeah, you do, but you guys got a country out of the deal. And you're running America too, and running show business and running communication. How about you want to go halfsies on Israel? You know, do you? And like, these people can't be reasoned with. So yeah, that's where we're at. And it's not the Jewish people's fault, and that's Charles Darwin's fault. Blame that on Charles Darwin, because Charles Darwin's like, we evolved from apes. It's like, well, where did it happen? It had to be Africa. And you think what he's really saying there is like, couldn't have been Europe. You know what I mean? Because basically he believed that that the species was still evolving. Now, what I feel Joe Rogan really meant is that he felt like a chimpanzee amongst gorillas. Because I believe I believe that African people look more like gorillas, and white people look more like chimpanzees, and Asian people look more like orangutans, which coincidentally is the only one of the great apes that lives in Asia. Okay, it was like, well, wait a minute. Oh, see, Charles Darwin's theory of evolution doesn't have convergence, but look at the duck-billed platypus. It lays eggs, it's got a duck bill, but it swims like a beaver, and it's got a stinger and poison, so it's like not just different animals combined, it's whole different species. I think it was a clue that's left to us. Now, Egypt is where that great big giant pyramid's at, right? So, I think we need to start looking at like what our other parent is. We know what, we got the apes that we as one of our parents, but the other parent that came from up in the sky. Now we got all of our text says that. Well, we always refer to them as angels, but angels. Now we're getting scientific, but and that's one thing we got to look at is what we know about. Look at an ape's face and look at our face, and if we're trying to figure out what our other parent is, we got to think noses. And I believe first of all, I believe the Jewish people know this, because The Simpsons one time did an episode where aliens were just big noses. And if you don't know that the Jewish people or the Hebrew people of the Jewish faith make The Simpsons or own The Simpsons now, then I don't know what to tell you about that. They do. They don't own South Park. Well, they own South Park. They don't make South Park. Now, you know that they're starting to tighten the screws on South Park a little bit more when Cartman, when he became a rabbi, he wasn't a bully about it. Because when Cartman was redhead for a little bit, after hating redheads, he became the Hitler of the redheads. And if I found out tomorrow that I was part Jewish, I'd probably be Hava Nagalahila, why not? Because I speak purely for myself, sometimes I hate white people. And I had this happen to me one time. Trying to get into this festival, and I got my vending supplies and stuff, and the staffies at the festival, they were trying to take my supplies away from me. He's trying to steal my supplies. Like, he doesn't have his vendor's permit with him and everything. Well, so I turned my van around like, you can take my wrist bracelet from the festival. This was at a Bonnaroo in 2006. You can take my bracelet off that I paid for, because that's your property. You can't take my supplies. So I turned my van around, and they were like, oh, hey, stop. And I got to pull away, and the cop, because he thinks I've got something illegal, like a firearm or something like that, because that's what they're supposed to be searching for, he comes around and pulls his gun on me. Then I slam the brakes, throws the door open, slams me down the dirt. It's got a foot on me, gun on me. He's like, what's he got? And meanwhile, all these college kids pulling in are like, good job, officer, good job, officer. So I'm with the black people and hating white people sometimes. I mean, you got a point there. But yes, we just got to look to Chad and Niger as an example of how we can all get along. So Joe Rogan, what he said, blame that on Charles Darwin, okay? And but we do have, everybody's like, Paul McCartney pointed out, ebony and ivory live side by side in harmony. That's a good point. Also, we should mention that Chad and Niger share a border. I don't know if I pronounced that right. I'm not sure if I'm supposed to use a hard R when I say Niger or not, but side by side in Africa is Chad and Niger, and they live together in harmony. Now, black people and white people, if anybody doesn't realize that we love each other, I mean, because what other two races are like, in America, I speak personally for myself, I love the black American culture and everything, and most white people do, and I think black people like white culture too. It's a real nice mix. Now, who I feel bad for is brown people, because they're so undefined. First of all, it's like, if you're white, you got this European heritage, and if you're black, you got African heritage. But if you're brown, it could mean you're from Mexico, it could mean you're from the Middle East, it could mean you're Filipino. It's just this real vague. It could be Native American. It's just this big, vague mix. Now, yellow people, that's got to be a painter. You have to blame a painter on that, because they don't look yellow in any way whatsoever. You don't look at an Asian person, but that person's yellow. But if you mix the paint to do the skin color, you do mix more yellow in there to get the skin color. So I believe that was probably a painter. Blame that one on painter, not Charles Darwin. That racist Charles Darwin. See, some people think, okay, we're going to be replaced because soon robots are going to be better than we are. Oh, are they? All a robot is capable of doing is discriminating. If we think that we're prejudiced, that's all algorithms do is discriminate. They divide you by your age, by your race. That's all they do. Here's an example. One time I punched in Baba Alatunji in YouTube. And if anybody doesn't know who Baba Alatunji is, he's a great drummer from Africa. But when those words, YouTube, I heard some great music that day. And it included Fela Kuti and Baby Huey and James Brown, and all this great music, some of it from Africa, a lot of it from America, some of it from 60s and 70s, some of it contemporary. But the only thing that all those songs had in common, and I couldn't help but notice, was after like 4 hours of listening to great music, mind you, all black music all day, because they're like, Baba Alatunji, he wants to hear some black music. Never occurred to him for 1 minute that I was just wanting to hear great drummers, So that's what AIs do. So when Siri and Alexa, you want to find some prejudice beings out there, go after Siri and Alexa. So we're going to tell you, there's probably some women that are like, oh, now the toxic male's attacking these female entities. But ladies, let's face it, the software designers for Siri and Alexa were most likely men. That's just the numbers, statistically speaking. So far, fellas and ladies, they don't have rights. They are fair game. All right, have a good day.